Hello, class. We are going to be practicing shading our pumpkins now. So you guys have done a lot of work on how to draw the pumpkin and how to draw all of these shapes that make the whole pumpkin. You guys have done a great job. So now we're going to practice shading, okay? I want you to try shading maybe with like the 2B or the 4B and then just work with your pressure. That's kind of going to give you a nice mid-tone to practice with this. Or if you feel a little more advanced, you're welcome to do like an HB for your really lighter shading spots and then work towards the darker pencils if you would like, but that's up to you. I'm gonna just use one pencil to kind of show you. You can do this with the pressure. Okay, so I'm gonna shade this from the same direction that my light is coming from on this pumpkin, so from the window. So I would recommend you do this too in your sketchbook. You write which direction the light is coming from, okay? And then we're gonna study our pumpkin. So we're gonna study, see how each of these pieces look so round. So one of the hardest things about drawing is making things look 3D, making things look round or have volume to them. So with our elements of art, shapes plus value equal form. So that's what we're trying to do. We've made our shapes. We've made our gourd shapes here, or oval shapes that make up a pumpkin. And now we're going to add value in a way that creates form, okay? That's our task here. That's what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to try to do this in two kind of steps for you. So as a whole, if we just pretended that the pumpkin was a circle, that it was a sphere, instead of had all these parts. In general, the light from this highlight would get darker as it goes across the page, okay? So, and it kind of swoops up like this. So I'm gonna draw a little half moon here, just like this, okay? So you can draw that on your pumpkin, and we're just gonna really lightly put in a shading here, okay? We're gonna like put in these. I'm going up and down with these marks. You can go crosswise if you want to, but we're gonna do some cross hatching later. So I'm just putting in an initial value here. So we can do different levels with shading. So we can like, you don't have to do it all at once is what I mean. You can kind of do at different times, okay? So I'm trying to do this all of very similar pressure, all right? So this is just step one. Okay, step one is we're putting in this general shape, okay? That's step one. Step two is we're gonna start actually looking at each individual piece, okay? So as the light hits these sections, actually this piece like bubbles up and down, so it's actually shaded kind of towards the middle here. It's darker here, and then it goes lighter. So I'm gonna add in these shadows right in here, okay? And the reason it's shaded is because these bumps come up and around. So that means they're kind of blocking the light. And it's gonna be the opposite over here. We're gonna be able to leave, so we're gonna leave these tops highlighted, okay? So those are the opposite. Now what we're gonna do after you've put in that initial shading is we're gonna do a mid-tone right down to the middle, so it's really light, nice and light. And now each shape is gonna kind of go light to dark, light to dark, light to dark. Okay, so let's start with this middle piece here. So I'm gonna shade up and down still, really lightly here, but then I'm gonna add a little more value coming down the middle here. And then once you go, you're gonna go back over where you shaded here. Okay, so we're gonna pretend that isn't done. And then we're gonna start going to the side here. And then when you get to the edge, you're gonna make it nice and dark right here on this side. Now notice my pencil marks. I'm starting to try to make volume with my actual pencil marks. So this is nice and dark on this side, and it's gonna kind of, I'm cross hatching in the middle here and coming across, making this darker. Okay, and you're gonna come back over here, layer it, and it's gonna become really light on this edge, okay? So, and you can kind of make some circular motions too. You can use your eraser if you have your block eraser or one of your erasers to add a few highlights here on this edge. Okay, now watch this. This is where this piece really comes alive, is the contrast. So right on the edge of this piece, I'm going to add in the shadows of the next one. There's kind of a shadow down here. Okay, and you're going to do the same thing. Dark right here into a mid-tone right here. So I'm just changing the pressure of my pencil, and then into a highlight, into a light highlight here, so I can add my few highlights. Okay, here we go again. So for this one, it's going to be dark right at the edge here. Dark right along this edge, and that makes this highlight feel brighter because I'm coloring this contrast right next to it. Okay, and it's darker at the bottom. So you remember we did that half moon shape here. So when we go across here, the highlight is kind of in this middle section. It's actually darker at the bottom. Okay, now this gets a little tricky. If I'm actually looking at my pumpkin, it goes darker on this side here, but you can just keep going with that pattern, okay? That pattern is gonna really help you in general for whichever light side you have, okay? And then this back piece is kind of a highlight here. Okay, so we've got that side. Now you can come back and do a little more cross-hatching. Your sketches will look a lot more realistic if you cross-hatch. So that means if you're going back and forth, if you're varying the pressure and you're varying the how that you're going back and forth like this, varying the marks that you're making. Sorry. Okay, so that's just a general rule for these to make them kind of feel round, is your shading. All right, so now once we go to the other direction though, it's a little bit opposite because they're round. So they start to get kind of dark. Now we switch it. Now dark is on the outer side here, and it goes lighter in the middle and then darker on the edges. So these sides are kind of light in the middle. And you can draw in kind of a really dark line here if you want. Okay. And they're darker because they're going away from the light. So you can see here, it's so much brighter here, and then it starts to get darker over here because of the way the light hits. So I want you to look at your pumpkin, do the best you can, and you're gonna still try to focus on making each shape feel round by highlighting it a little bit opposite. Okay, and then this gets kind of darker over here too, so you can do this shape. And it's gonna be light at the top here. Okay, and then the same with your stem. So you can vary your mark making. I do these little like tick marks here so that you've got a nice shadow. If you want, you can try to put in the shadow of your stem, but that gets a little bit tricky. Okay. So then you can start going back over some of your spots. You can start pulling out some more highlights. You can start adding some details too once you have this kind of in here. You can start adding some like lines down. If you see some lines on your pumpkins, you can add some little like dots, some little marks that are, you know, kind of make it imperfect, right? You can draw some little marks like this. Make it darker on the bottom down here if you want. Okay. So every pumpkin's gonna look a little bit different. Once you get all this shading in here, you can darken the edges of all of your kind of shapes, and that will kind of help bring it alive a little more. Okay, you can keep messing with it. You can erase out some spots if you need to. You know, it can be a little messy, but that's what we're working towards here. Okay. All right. I know that's a lot. You can go back in and take out some more highlights on these high spots. So remember, your eraser can be a tool too, where you can, you know, use one of the pink erasers or a school eraser, but I just have this one on hand here. You can leave your highlights. I think I took out too much there, so I'm gonna go back. Okay, so hopefully that made some sort of sense to you. This direction, our shapes were going, if the light's coming this way, they were going light to dark this way, light to dark. And overall, your whole pumpkin's going that way. But then each piece over on this side kind of starts going dark to light in each piece. Okay, you can do it. Great job.